I would argue that 90% of entrepreneurs don't have a vision. It's usually the building of the vision that's really uncomfortable for entrepreneurs.
Why is that?
To truly build a vision successfully, you have to dismantle almost all of the steps that got you where you are going. When you build a vision, it's almost like an extension of what you currently have. That's the natural tendency, right? This is what it was, so this is what it will be. And we live in this as a human paradox, right? We simultaneously dream, but we typically dream in a straight line. If we don't let go of the past and we don't really organize around like specificity of what we actually want, it gets very overwhelming very fast. Okay, we're back in the studio.
Studio 1A?
Studio 1B. B for Bravo.
Oh yeah, 1A is
Bravo.
NBC or something. Studio 1A.
Yeah, the big guys have Studio 1A.
The Today Show, Studio 1A.
Today Show has Studio 1A, we're in 1B.
That's good. We're only one step down.
There have been some really fun studios I've been in. Like I went to WUSA 9, I think it was like 2020. I think it was right before COVID hit. And their studio is awesome. Like some of those studios, they have so many lights and
that's amazing.
Cameras and, staging and chairs. And you think when you watch like a news channel or something like that, or a game show, I've also been on a game show.
Not just the one at Bam Kazam, like a real one.
No, like a real one. Like the Price is Right stage seems like it's infinite, but they just work cameras and angles and move stuff. Everything's on wheels. It's cool, man. It's a fun way to learn about how they make these shows happen.
Even Studio 1A, I've been outside there on Rockefeller Center, and obviously you only see what you see on the screen, but there's so much behind the scenes that goes on to make that show happen.
Yeah. I mean, hundreds of people are probably a part of that in some shape or form. Yeah. Always the behind the scenes. The less glorified.
It's what makes it happen.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting to think about, our topic today, vision, and then to think about that particular process, right? Because in like a movie or in, something like this, like a talk show, like we, the viewer, get a very particular piece, but there's a lot that goes into that composition, a lot that is created, a lot that is needed, a lot that you just got to chug through.
And think lighting alone. Lighting alone.
Yeah.
To make sure there's not shadows and everything else.
Yeah, hair, makeup. Wardrobe, all that stuff. People just assume that these particular, whoever is on stage or on camera, they just like walk in like that, right? Someone picks their clothes and gets it tailored and picks what makes their skin look good and hair and makeup looks good. Like it's not like they wake up like that.
I've watched the Today Show enough to know it comes on at 7 a.m, but they're there by like 3 a.m.
Yeah.
In order to do the show at 7.
Yeah. Yeah. A lot of times, an old buddy of mine used to be an announcer, and he had to show up like 6 hours before the game.
Yeah.
Just to get ready. Because there's so much to get ready for.
Yeah.
Well, we're here to talk about vision.
How did we go down that path? Oh, Studio 1A.
Studios. And that's a big part of vision. Like who's supporting, who's building, who's helping create it, who's putting their time and energy into hair, makeup, and wardrobe. Obviously, those things are different when you build out a vision as an entrepreneur, but there still are these like invisible sort of contributors that are a big part of a vision. I think that is important. And much like something on a TV show, most people only see the external side. They don't see the internal, the back end of what it takes to build a vision or bring it to life. You see somebody with a great business and a great lifestyle and a great family and a great circle around them. Like there was a lot that went into that, a lot more than what you perceive.
Well, think about it. I mean, I would take it a step further. There's also the internal of the person who's trying to manifest this vision. Like we don't see any of that. We do in the work that we do, but there's this whole internal piece that a person is wrestling with to try to even begin to identify what that vision looks like, and then what do you do in order to manifest it into the world?
Yeah. I mean, the word manifest has got its own. I have a lot of opinions. The word manifest.
Well, you could pick any word you want.
No, and my point is only that
That's what popped into my head.
I think manifest is often what is sort of like the outside TV version where people are like, oh yeah, you have a charmed life. Like, and we can sit and sort of hum our way through it, but it takes a lot to build a really good life. Often a lot of sacrifice, often a lot of internal work, often a lot of like digging. I mean, I think the question of what do you want is really hard to answer.
It's also not one and done. Like there's
sure.
Exploring what that vision is an ongoing process.
Yeah.
As you move through it. And once it starts to take life, I'll say that instead of manifest, take life in the world, it starts to butt up against reality. And then how do you need to adjust and adapt in order to keep going forward with it?
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Yeah, it's not really easy to build it, which I think is kind of normal. I also think that when you build out, when you start to see it take shape, you get momentum, right? Then it's like, oh man, I'm really into it. It's usually the building of the vision that's really uncomfortable for entrepreneurs.
Why is that?
Why? To truly build a vision successfully, you have to dismantle almost all of the steps that got you where you are going or where you are today. So, because what happens is when you build a vision, it's almost like an extension of what you currently have. That's the natural tendency, right? This is what it was, so this is what it will be. And we live in this as a human paradox, right? We simultaneously dream, but we typically dream in a straight line. So we just extend our current circumstance forward, and we're like, that's obvious. Like we might track growth, but that growth is very minimal and doesn't require a lot of significant change. Most of what I can think of where almost anyone listening could understand what the difference looks like is when people think about parenting. Because when you think about parenting, you literally, even though you might have 1,000 friends that are like, this is what it's like, you cannot imagine what life is like past that point unless you let go of what your life currently looks like. You have to jettison your past life to get to the current one, to the vision. So that's an example where I think most people can understand that. But it's because we're attached to like, this is how it was, this is how it will always be, that our vision shrinks. When we let go of that, we can actually build a really successful high level vision. Also
being mindful, like, I mean, we'll use the parent thing, the parent image. Emerson, in this case, the way he is now will be very different 2 years from now, 10 years from now. Yeah. And your whole like understanding of what being a dad is going to change, must change. I don't say it always does for people. Yeah. But it has to change at some point. Sure. As he grows, because then he has to go and do his own vision as well.
Yeah. Yeah. The way you show up in different phases, I'm sure. I mean, I don't, like, I know it because I've worked with a lot of kids, mostly like middle school, high school. So I definitely had to show up for them different in phases, but it'd be a different experience as a dad. I also think when we build out a vision, the reason it's difficult is, so one, you've got this, I'm holding on to the past and I'm just going to perpetuate it. But the other part is,
can you maybe say something? What vision? What do you mean by vision?
A vision is it's a depiction of what you want and who you are in the future.
And then what were you going to say? What was your point?
So the second challenge that I mean, I think all of our clients come to us with and are somewhat saturated by is that when you go to build a vision, when you like sit down with a piece of paper, you're like, okay, what do I want in the future? it's way easier to think of what you don't want. And that does not create a vision. That creates space. So you can say like, well,
you could eliminate.
I don't want to be broke, or I don't want to have to think about my month-to-month expenses, or I don't want to have to work. I want to be financially free, right? And this is a great example because almost every entrepreneur that we've worked with has said, I want to be financially free. I don't want to have to work. And that's basically saying what you don't want. People think it's what they do want, but it's a space. It's not actual clarity. It's not actual depiction. It's just, I don't want to have to work. So then the question is like, well, what do you want to do? What do you want to spend time on?
Using that example, that's an easy answer because we're also told this is what you should want.
Yeah.
But to go beyond what's deeper going on, it isn't necessarily part of the conversation unless they're working with us or someone else that could get below that standard answer.
Yeah. Yeah. If you're listening, I would say that, most of our listeners are probably business oriented, if not business owners. So if you're listening, you probably have been like, yeah, I want financial freedom. And, if you don't like what you do, or you are frustrated in your business, or you're stuck in your business, then you have your own emotions to deal with. But entrepreneurs, like a true bred entrepreneur, if you ask them what they would do with their time after they celebrate, after they sell their business and like they got millions in the bank and they can really truly choose, it's not very long before they would be miserable and hollow doing nothing.
What's next?
We talked about that with a client in town on Monday for an immersion. Like,
right.
You might have 6 months of like, I'm going to play golf.
Right.
I'm going to travel. I'm going to do all this. And then at some point, like an itch is going to hit where like, one, your account is just going to drain. And two, if you don't have something meaningful to pursue, it doesn't matter how much you play golf. You're still going to ask the question of like, who do I do life with? What am I doing? And then where am I going? And those questions start to get heavier and heavier the more you try to distract yourself from like the fact that you don't have any answer.
Yeah, what I think of is time. It starts to feel like time stops, but not in a good way. Time stops almost like because I'm dying in that moment.
Well, everyone else is still growing and doing, and like,
which there's a timelessness to that.
Yeah.
Time stopping is I'm dying. I'm on my deathbed at that point.
And it sounds cool, right? You got money in the bank
for a couple months.
It does, and having a couple months is important. But after a couple months, when you go to call your friend and it's 11:30 in the morning, and you're like just waking up and you don't have anything to do that day, and all your friends are doing stuff and chasing things and building relationships and making things happen for themselves, especially if you're an entrepreneur.
Yeah,
you're gonna be like, well, dude, what am I doing? Like,
they're the ones saying,
I'm lost.
I can't golf today. I got other things I got to do. I was nice at first.
Yeah, I'm not golfing again.
Yeah,
like I'm not going to be a professional golfer. Like I'm not. No.
Yeah.
There was somebody that reached out to inquire about what we do, and we were talking about vision and how it sort of compels you and drives like a worthy cause for you to organize around. And he was saying like he built a software company and sold it, and like by all standards he should be happy, but he's not happy. And I think this is actually a really common thing because if we don't let go of the past and we don't really organize around like specificity of what we actually want, it gets very overwhelming very fast, right? If you've ever been in like an ice cream store and there's 39 flavors, the easy thing to do is to go back to what you want, what you had last, right? You're like, I know vanilla.
Correct.
Or I know chocolate chip cookie dough. Like, I know what that's like. You're not going to sit there and try 39 flavors or 36 that you haven't had before because it's going to feel like there's so many options. How do you pick? You might try one, might try two.
And the line of people behind you will start to get annoyed.
Yeah. You have like a bunch of mini
come on.
So this idea of building a vision then really starts with,
I've already said, just give me your favorite.
To the woman in the front. So you're asking for guidance, right? Yep. That's what you're looking for is like, I need a guide. How do I figure this out?
And I knew I probably wouldn't try something different unless I just told her, you pick it.
Yeah. that there is something noble in being like, I need a guide here. The option set is too big. So I was at a dinner one time, and this guy was sitting next to me, and he had just exited his business and put a bunch of money in real estate to where his passive income covered his expenses, so he's financially free. And he's like, "Yeah, man, I finally made it." And it had been like 7 months. And I'm like, "Dude, that's like really awesome. Like, now what? Like, what do you feel like, you want to pursue?" And I use that word pursue really specifically. And he's like, "I don't know that I want to pursue anything." I was like, "How's that working out for you?" He's like, "I hate it." He's like, "I don't know what to do. Like, my kids, I'm like at home all the time. I'm driving my wife crazy. I'm bored. I'm like, I'm like bad habits are forming." He's like, the person I was when I was pursuing the sale of this business, I liked. The person I am today, like, I really think I'm slipping. And it was fascinating to like think.
You're slowly dying at that point.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, you are anyway, in a philosophical way, but
Sure. Yeah, we're marching.
You're just like speeding it up at that point.
Yeah, and I'm not. I do believe that the other challenge. So like that's one challenge where like you need a vision. You definitely need a vision. There are like 3 places we tend to meet people. That's one. Like, I'm there. I'm just not happy. I think the other place where a vision is really an important solution is when you're stuck and you just keep like swinging back into the same problem with business or life. Usually it's business, where like the business can't grow anymore because you're just stale. You need a vision for that. But I think the other part of it is like, if you don't have something to wake up and feel inspired to go do, especially as an entrepreneur, I think it's true for many people, but especially as an entrepreneur, it's not long before whatever it is you're doing, you start to hate. And it's quick to landslide down. So like being stuck and then being angry or like miserable are both conditions for like, it's time for a vision.
Yeah. If I look back on my own experience, it felt more like I was on a conveyor belt.
Uh-huh.
So even if I had changed churches where I was going to administer, it felt like I was going to something different. And at first it has that freshness to it, but I'm essentially just on the car conveyor belt of one Mustang. Maybe this one's a different color, so it looks different.
Yeah.
But essentially it's still the same thing.
Right.
It's really not moving forward. It feels like it at first, but then you just kind of hit the wall again. I think I'm doing something different, but essentially I'm doing the same thing.
Right. There's a quote that I have really fallen for that goes, "Change is inevitable, growth is optional, and a vision demands growth." It will force growth in your life again for all the reasons that are positive. But when like things are miserable, you're pretty ready to change, right? Pain will push you to move.
Yeah.
So a vision in that place is helpful because it tells you what to change. Because when you're in pain, if you're like frustrated in business, you're working too much, you're overloaded, you're stressed, your relationships are decaying, like all of that, a vision is kind of like the healing medicine to say, I know I need to change and I'm ready for it, but where do I go? Because you have 360 degrees that you could travel. Which direction do you go?
Yeah, I'm thinking of the resistance you face. Like, I mean, I was just on retreat a couple of weeks ago, which I knew was going to be an opportunity for growth. I just did. It was out of my comfort zone. It was all of that. The amount of resistance I had for that time leading up to that, it was like everything in me was like, don't, because something's going to change in this process.
Interesting.
How it would be easy to talk yourself out of growing just because like everything in you, all the buzzers and everything start going off. Like danger is ahead because growth is about to happen.
Yes. Yeah, definitely does that. I think another area where it's really interesting to think about change is inevitable growth is that second case where like you're just kind of stuck. You're just like waffling. Because usually what we hear is, I've worked really hard to get here and I don't want to risk it.
Right.
I don't want to risk
I'm gonna
losing
lose
it.
it all.
Yeah, I could lose it all. I don't want to risk it.
Yeah.
But I also know that if I don't risk something, then the change is down.
Right. You're going to change regardless.
Yeah.
You get to choose
It's inevitable.
which
Like,
way you're going to.
Do you want it to be growth or do you want it to be decay? And in that case, we've had a couple people reach out recently about and they're sort of in that space. In that case, vision then allows you to solve the puzzle for reduced risk, reduced downside risk. So don't.
Yeah. As long as it's in your head, it's going to feel like it's ginormous.
Yeah. And like very realistically, most entrepreneurs, when they first start, take a shitload of risk because you can, and you kind of have to, right? So you're very risk tolerant, even though it's way less than what people think. You're way more risk tolerant early because you have something to run from. When you get in that limbo space and it's time to run to something, you don't have the same kind of risk tolerance, right? You just don't. You're not going to risk all of your money. You're not going to put it all on black and hope that you roulette your way into a win. But that gives us new criteria to build a vision with. So it might not be that you work if there are 3 conditions that most of our clients say, like, hey, I want to build a vision, but I don't know how to build a vision with these criteria. It's these 3. Number 1, I don't want to risk all my money. Number 2, I don't want to work 60, 80 hours a week anymore. And number 3, I'm not willing to pay the cost for stress, family, friendships to be lost again. I worked really hard to bring them back into my life. I don't want to give that up.
Yeah.
So then we have a different set of parameters for a vision, and we get to build this thing that allows someone in that position to say, this is where I want to go next. This is what I'm excited about. This is my worthy cause. This is something I'm fighting for. And then you can go.
Does that make it feel easier for the person versus how they had tried doing it before? It feels like there would be a greater sense of maybe not easy is the right word. But it would be easier than the previous way of doing it, where you just sacrifice everything.
Well, it is easier, and it can be easy. Building a vision doesn't have to be hard. It's work, and it sometimes takes digging, and that can feel hard.
Maybe that's the hard part.
I think building the vision is usually harder than going, mostly because we think building the vision has to be hard. We think it has to be hard. And usually when we work really hard to build something that is sustainable and successful, it always comes to ups and downs. Like any business owner will tell you, like you just learn to ride the waves better. Where we come from is like, I have to struggle. Like the whole entrepreneurship community is like that. Like the hustle hard, like team no sleep, like cool. But you don't actually have to do that. Like you realize you're choosing that. So I do think there's a belief structure that most people have when they build a next level vision that assumes that I have to go back into those conditions.
Well, and if you're in your 40s, 50s, like myself, you will quickly find out you can't do that.
Right.
You just don't have, you can't do what you did when you're in your 20s or early 30s when you're 40, 50 years old.
Well, so let's talk about that but thematically, I think there's
like I value sleep now versus then, right?
Yeah.
Where you're just work.
Well, this goes back to conditions, right? So every vision needs to have conditions. In many ways, a vision is the criteria in which we move forward. So it guides our short-term decisions because we have a long-term set of parameters. And let's take a guy like Tom Brady, right? So
he had his first weekend in broadcasting this weekend.
Did he?
This past weekend. Yeah.
I heard it was a huge deal.
I was like a rookie.
Nice. Yeah, I think somebody referenced that the article that he was in said like he's a rookie again for the first time in like 30 years.
Yeah.
But so Tom Brady played professionally for like 20 some years.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I don't know how many exactly, but
a lot for a football player.
And if I remember right, when he retired, he was like pretty aged out.
Yeah,
compared to the rest of the league.
Early 40s, mid 40s.
Yeah. So you think about like what worked and got him there at 19, 20, 21, 22, like that phase, like from college to professional, that's one phase. That's like sheer hard work,
which he barely
studying,
got drafted.
barely made it, and had a big opportunity and like slayed it. Then you think about what made him successful for like the first couple of rings that he got, which were almost back to back to back to back to back. Like he had, 3 or 4 like back to back, really close proximity early on in his career. Well, at that point, you start to recognize, and this is true in business, it's true in fitness. I also think it's true at like the professional sports level. I think it's true with creatives and artists and musicians. At that point, you cannot operate on the same function. Typically, you're operating on like, I'm going to prove it. You're running from something. I'm going to prove it to you. I'm going to show you that I'm the best. Well, if you have 3 or 4 rings, like, or you go back to Michael Jordan or some of these like prolific athletes, Messi, you done did it. It's proven. So you have to operate. Again, a vision creates a growth parameter of who you are and what you want. So you have to have like this thing of, I'm going to operate differently now. And to play into your late 30s and 40s in the NFL, you're playing against guys that are 24 years old who will murder you
and want to
prove themselves.
Correct.
So like, you have to operate on a totally different frequency. And he was pretty forthcoming about like his sleep cycle, his eating cycles. Like,
oh yeah, he's like obsessed with it. To the obsession side.
He was dialed in with like, I get 9 hours of sleep. Like, that's just what I do. So you operate at a different level and you operate at a different frequency. But to operate at that level, you have to redefine the conditions. It can't be like, I got to prove it, because then you're.
What's interesting is that the debate when he was leaving was, well, is it him or was it the coach? The team tanked after he left, and the coach was still there. Now the coach is out of a job.
Yeah.
So who was really running the show?
Yeah, leadership. Well, I think that most of what happens for if I'm going to push a button for anybody that's listening, and I really hope that it triggers you to think about this. It might trigger you, but like, I would argue that 90% of entrepreneurs don't have a vision. What they have is an engine that's like, I'm going to prove to the world, to my dad, to my mom, that like I can be successful. So their vision is like, it's not a vision, it's just success.
Well,
it's a goal.
I agree with you 1,000% on that. I'm going to add this caveat. I think that's a necessary part of the process.
Yeah, I'm not saying that it isn't. You have to do this, right? You have to fight to get out.
There's a good chance you don't even know that you're doing it, but you are.
Yeah, you have to fight to get out of your initial conditions.
Correct.
To build who
Myself
you are.
included. I was there.
You got to do it, and you got to dig really deep to get to a place where you can be like, okay, I'm going to get out of here. I'm going to fight my way out of here.
You're essentially fighting your way out of your own box.
Yep. You're fighting to change your mindset. You're fighting to change your money. You're fighting to change your habits. You're fighting to change your personality. All of that has to happen. But people are mixed up and they're like, I have a vision. Like, bro, it's okay to not, but let's not mistake this for like a worthy cause. Your worthy cause is getting out. You're trying to get out of the box. Cool. Fine. Let's just label it what it is. If you're listening right now, I'm willing to bet that you're more committed to the results that you get than the reason you're doing it. And that's how you know the difference, right? I want the money. I need to sell the business. I need to get 200 grand of revenue a year. Name it, label it. Want the result.
Yeah. I'm thinking of my own experience, and this would apply probably to a corporate person as well. I was essentially in my own box that I was fighting out of. Then I was in another box within quote unquote corporate type setting. That fight became just too exhausting. I couldn't fight that fight, and I didn't think it was my fight to fight anymore. It wasn't until I finally left that I realized those boxes were actually very similar. And once I've got out of one, I was able to work my way out of the other one much easier.
Yeah. Yeah. You need to build the fortitude.
Yeah.
You have to grow.
It is everyone. If you're in your 20s, you're more than likely in the process of doing that.
Yeah. So then there's like this place, right? So it's like, I'm going to climb. And Everybody's climbing.
Hello down there.
Everybody's climbing the same mountain.
You realize, oh my.
Everybody is climbing the same mountain. Then, if you're
But
committed
it sure does feel lonely up there when you get there on that mountain.
on that mountain, yeah. Then you get to the top of that mountain, and you get to circle with like success. You get to hang out with it, you get to taste it, you get to drink it, you get to party with it. Then you start to see that something different is starting to happen.
Well, like the clouds start to part. Oh, there's another mountain.
Well, I think that most of the world chooses to stay in the clouds.
Yeah.
They're just like, I can keep doing this.
Yeah.
Almost by way of extension, they're just like, let me just keep moving the mountain a little bit.
Correct.
I'm just gonna. I don't want to stop hiking.
I don't see that mountain over there.
Yeah, I don't want to stop hiking. Like, I'm just gonna make the mountain a little taller.
Yeah. Well, because essentially you're using that image. There's no way to go from the top here to the top there. You literally have to come down and go back up.
Right. So then, like, while you're swirling around there and the fog is there and all that shit, then you start to see two different operations, right? You see people who are swirling and you're like, how long you been here? And they're miserable. And you're like, what is going on? Like, if you actually pay attention to in a successful arena of people, you will watch and see one of these two things. Someone is swirling and they're just like, yeah, I don't really know I don't know what's next. Like, I work a couple hours a week, I'm chilling, I'm cool. And then you'll see, and these are far and few between, you'll see somebody that has a vision. And seeing that person, you just immediately are lit up with like, oh, I want that. How do I get that?
There's a different energy to that person. Different
energy, different speed. Not that they're like rushing anymore, but you can tell they're going. They're not just circling.
Yeah, I keep thinking of one of my trips to Acadia National Park. When I started a hike, it was clear. It was a nice day. And as I got close to the top, fog, and up there, like when it rolls in, it rolls in. I was so disoriented in that fog because I have no idea how to get back down this mountain from where I came. And I think in real life that you have the opportunity to say, I need help at this point because I don't know where I'm going to go. And or I just ignore that and I just wander up in the cloud.
Yeah. Well, the common,
I'll never forget that experience because I had no idea where I was going.
It's really important to sort of tie the metaphor together because I think there's so much beauty in saying this out loud. The person that wants to swirl is afraid to come down. And when you build a vision, you come back to the bottom.
Right. I at least knew I had to get down somehow.
Yep. You are back at the 0 point of that vision. And if you really want to really want to dig into this, read Second Mountain, read Die With Zero, read The Last Word or My Last Talk or something. Chris mentioned this.
Yeah, I think it's Last Talk.
My Last Talk. One Last Talk, I think is what it's called. Like, read these books. Read When Breath Becomes Air. Like, read these books about this. Because once you climb the success mountain once, and you have a little taste of it, and you start to really see what's going on there. I mean, I met guys that are wildly, wickedly successful on paper. I mean, these are our clients, right? So, like, not only do I meet them, I get to like know them, but also have the time and resources to get healthy, to build meaningful relationships, to read, to learn, to grow, to challenge themselves, to dig into who they are, to contribute, to make an impact, and choose instead to dig another 60, 70 hours a week into their business that's already doing fine, to almost out of aversion of that second mountain, that more meaningful pursuit. And to go,
that which is the, and maybe if you're not around the right people, you don't know that. If you do enough reading and research, you could find people that have climbed that second mountain.
Yeah.
That maybe necessarily can't tell you how to do it. You got to find your way. But at the same time, if you're looking for more, doing the same thing, more of the same thing isn't going to get you that.
Well, that's the past, right?
Correct.
It's like
correct.
This is what makes a vision problematic. Because if you just say,
you're just going to stay on that
first
mountain.
Yeah, that's an easy. That's why I say most people don't have a vision because they're just like, well, A vision is bigger or more of what I currently have. Like, that's not a vision, man. That's an extension. Like, you just got an extended contract. Like, that's all you got.
Yeah.
Right. When Brady went down to Tampa Bay, that was much more like a vision. I'm going to leave what I have and know, and I'm going to go rebuild at zero. That's a vision, right? Even the idea of like him being an announcer, that's a vision. And I don't know that.
But essentially, it
well.
doesn't start at zero because you're bringing all that experience with you.
Of course. But
it just feels
that way.
Correct.
Because you have to rebuild who you are.
Correct.
And I think athletics is a really good place to do this. Because so many athletes go through a reinvention. Because they have to. Because eventually you get to a place of like, this engine doesn't work anymore. It doesn't take me to something bigger. And,
I did listen to a little of Tom Brady on Sunday, I guess I was.
As an announcer?
Yeah. I didn't think he was that bad. People are just generally critical of him to begin with. Like, they'll just tear him apart.
Okay. Well, here's another part of a vision, right? Like,
I think Tony Romo is the other guy who was quarterback, then went into broadcasting. I think the guy's better at broadcasting than he ever was at playing football.
Yeah, I think the critical piece and being criticized is also part of a vision. Like, you're going to be criticized when you pursue something meaningful. You're going to be criticized. Just got to be ready for that.
Yeah, he just gets overly criticized.
Yeah. I think what we should do is we should take some of our frameworks on vision and maybe do like a mini series, like I don't know, 3, 4, 5 part mini series, and just break down like why these things are part of a vision. Like, we can go through our vision framework and just talk through like not only how to do it, but why it's important. Because I think so many people, again, they're like, I have a vision, and they're basically like, I have a vision of money. Like that, that's like what it is like, I have a vision of where I make $200,000 a year.
They're good Americans.
Da, 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 da. But they aren't really compelled by something. And if you really want to know whether you have a vision or you have like an outcome, a goal, strip away all the numbers, strip away all the like the things that you get, and then tell the story. Because my guess is that there's going to be nothing left after that. There's no process. There's no like, here's what I'm marching towards. It's just money. So it's like, I want to get the business to 10 million in revenue. Why? Well, I want to make $500,000 a year. Why? And then it's like crickets. The idea of a vision is largely a process. This is how I pursue, versus the goal, which is often like, here's what I get. And I think when you really have a vision, you can tell the difference, because when it all goes to shit, you can still go. You can still burn. Your engine is based on something totally different. When it's hard, when it's difficult, it's very easy when you don't have a vision to be like, discard and find a better boat. When you have a vision, it doesn't matter how many holes are in the boat. You're just like, we're going to plug the holes and we're going to keep the boat alive.
Yeah, you often hear stories of different artists, people who have been successful that are rejected 1,000 times over, but keep going because of the vision.
Yep. J.K. Rowling, certainly one of those stories. I'd say,
I think Disney was one of those stories.
Yeah, Walt Disney and is it Robert, his brother?
Yeah.
Robert Disney.
Yeah.
I would also say, like, if this theme sort of resonates with you, read As a Man Thinketh by Viktor Frankl. Read the book called The Choice. I can't remember who wrote The Choice, but it's another Holocaust survivor. Like, you think shit's hard? You think your shit is hard? Like, talk about hard?
Right.
Read those books and again, connect back to like, if there's a vision, it tells you how to do things.
Life is hard.
It tells you what is required to get to the next level. It also will dictate that you keep going when it's hard. And like, if it gets hard and you shipwreck, or like you just abandon ship, you ain't got a vision. You just wanted an outcome. And that's okay. Like, again, they're in phases, but we work with guys that are already at that success plateau who are asking like, what's next, or what can be done, or what's the cause, or like, I'm in pain and it's just, I don't want to be here anymore. And like, technically I've made it. Why do I keep doing this to myself? And we help them build a vision. Maybe you're still in the phase of like climbing that first mountain, but if vision is something that you're lacking and you're like ready to go, that's where having a structure, a framework, and a guide, kind of like being in a giant ice cream shop of like all these options, really gets helpful.
Yeah. I like the topic because it's not all about logic and
correct.
brain, and there's something it comes from a deeper place.
It does. Yeah, it's the heart. It's certainly creativity in there. It's a lot of those. And I think when you build it, it summons up the best in you. Now,
if you build it, they will come.
Well, it's almost like
I think that guy James Earl Jones. He was in that movie. If you build it, they will come.
Was that Field of Dreams?
Yeah, Field of Dreams.
Yeah, that guy was in a lot of movies, man.
He was.
R.I.P. James Earl Jones. Leave me alone.
It was a football game.
There was a cheerleader. Here's an opportunity for you. If you want our vision framework, again,
I told, just before you do that, I told you the story of him that I had heard where he's most known for his voice, but he was also mute for several years because of his stutter. But there's a guy who very well could have said, "That's it for me. Like I'm not," and continue. His voice took him places.
Yeah. Yeah, fucking wild, man, to watch what he became. I think we should really do this vision like a mini series. I think that'd be a great topic. If you want our vision
because there's
framework,
so many pieces to it.
There's a lot of pieces,
and the creativity side, because that is what gets squashed in most of us.
Yeah. Just even talking through, like, I mean, most people, again, they take what was and make it what will be, and it's just kind of boring.
Yeah.
So going through that would be great. If you want,
it's like this when we have like 6 movies of the same thing. It's like it's still the same thing. I know what I expect.
Yep. If you want the vision framework that we have, reach out to us. Jump on Instagram. Jump on Facebook. Send me a note. Go to the website. You can let us know there. You can reach out to us there. You can comment on YouTube. But if you want the vision framework, we'll send it to you. And then you can pay attention to the miniseries, and we can help you figure out how to use it. And I'm a big believer that, like, if even if you are still in sort of the first mountain, thinking about a vision will help you grow. It'll help you deal with change.
Well, I'll just say it another way. Even if you're climbing the first mountain, there's something in you that wants more. Like, you're going to keep coming back to that. You're going to think you want to get to the top of that mountain. It's really the vision that's trying to come out of you at that point. You just don't know it yet.
Yeah, well said. It's a great way to end. Something is birthing in you.
Correct.
We'll see you on the next episode. Remember to get out of your own way. We appreciate you listening. If you don't mind, hop over to Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Leave us a review. 17 stars if you can. If there's only 5, then fill it all the way up. We'll count it as 17 in our mind.
Do it 3 times to get 15 at least.
Yeah, leave us a positive review. We really love to know what you love. And then again, if you want the vision exercise, let us know somewhere.
I heard they love me. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
You're the anchor, man.
I don't know.
All right. Have a good rest of your day. Get out of your own way today. And carpe the diem. We'll see you on the next one.